Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today to let us have a sneak peek of the new show, which, as we know, has already got 26 episodes and another 26 episodes to come. So that is kind of a ringing endorsement that seems to have been backed up by the response today. So I just want to start off, if I can, with Giles, just to talk a little bit about sort of the genesis of the project, because there are some people here, I guess, who have never seen... Is anybody here, to start off with, is there anybody here who's never seen the original Thunderbirds? You just put your hand up. There are some, there's quite a few hands there. So there's an awful lot of people who have never seen Thunderbirds before, so you've got to start from scratch with them. But there are other people who have got very, very locked views about what Thunderbirds is all about. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about your relationship with the show and how you kind of tackled some of those questions.
The show made a huge impression on me as a child, and when I discovered that ITV not only owned Thunderbirds, but the whole of the wonderful Jerry and Sylvia Anderson archive from the 60s and 70s, it was just like discovering treasure. We're very, very proud and privileged at ITV to own such an iconic catalogue, and when Maria Kiriakou, who's here today in ITV Global Entertainment, joined about 4 years ago, and asked us to look into the reimagining of Thunderbirds, it was like a dream come true. As I said before, the series has a lot of cultural relevance for a lot of people, and when we started out on this remake, we were very sure of one thing, and that was that there's a reason why this show has lasted the test of time over the last 50 years. It's a much-loved property, and we knew that we didn't want to mess with anything that worked in the original show. We wanted to pay tribute to the original series, but also modernise the series so that it was right for an audience of 2015, and I really hope that we've done that job well. So.
And in terms of who you saw your core audience as being when you were making the show, because obviously you could go down the fan route, you can go down the kind of the kids. Who would you really see the shows for?
Our primary audience, we're commissioned by CITV and ITV Network, and so our primary audience is for a kind of 6 to 11 audience. The pinnacle for us, and I know for Richard Taylor as well in New Zealand, is if this series can become a piece of family viewing on Saturday or Sunday mornings, then we'll have done our job. And I would love it if we're not only touching the imaginations and emotions of a kind of 7-year-old boy, but if we have parents and grandparents watching with their families in the original, that would just be the pinnacle for us. So.
And one thing, you've not shied away from nods to the original, and there are lots of little treats in there for people who are in the know, but in a way that isn't kind of overbearing or kind of requires that. I mean, that's obviously quite a balance to achieve, isn't it?
No, absolutely. You know, the basic DNA of the show, 5 young brothers, a secret hideaway island, and the most fantastic craft that you could imagine to play with, helping people around the world wherever people are in trouble. It's not a bad place to start for a show. And so none of that needed tampering with. And from a design point of view as well, what stunning designs from 1965. You know, it's just, there was the currency of Jerry and Sylvia's series was just so rich and wonderful that we felt that the series should absolutely pay tribute to all those elements that made it special, whilst at the same time updating the show so, you know, that it's suitable and compelling for a young audience of today. And you know.
And Estelle, from your point of view, obviously, it's a show about international rescue. This is a truly international show. Obviously, we've got the guys here at ITV just along the road here in London. You've got Rob over in LA, kind of, you know, at the sort of the heart of the writing empire. You've got guys over in New Zealand on production, and China as well, I think. Can you just tell us a little bit about how it works, kind of crawling all of that together?
Yeah, it's we start with Rob's bit. So Rob is writing the scripts and editing the scripts in the US, but with UK and US writers. Some of the UK writers are here today. Then we record all the voices, and we do that in London. So all these guys are putting their voices together. That goes back to New Zealand, and they've done all the design, and they put it together. The directors are based out there as well, so they put it together as a post-viz and a pre-viz, and like digital storyboarding, really. And when that's all done, then it goes to China for the animation. And when it's finished in China, it comes back to London. where the team here, led by Teresa Reed, do a lot of the. We do all the post-production here, so there's guys here as well that are doing.
So there's a lot of Skyping going on, presumably.
There's a lot of late night and early morning calls.
And if you've got families and you're having to do kind of calls to New Zealand, America, I mean that's probably not ideal.
No, there's a lot of people in New Zealand have seen my cats wandering in front of a Skype camera at 10 o'clock at night, that kind of thing. But yeah, truly a kind of global co-production.
And once in the UK, the sound element is critical for us. I'm a huge proponent of terrific sound. I think it's very easy to spoil a beautiful looking show with a poor soundtrack, and so it was really important from both a sound effects point of view and a music point of view that we really did sonic justice to the series. And I know that Ben and Nick Foster, our composers, are here today. I can't thank you enough for a score that Barry Gray would have been truly, truly proud of. You have absolutely done yourselves proud. And I also want to thank a massive thank you to Nigel Heath of Hackenbacker Audio Post-Production, who has handmade most of the effects on this show, from vacuum cleaners to broken air conditioning units. You name it, he's done it, and they have done it with love and passion. And as I say, I can't thank them enough.
Before I move on and talk to the other guys, just in terms of the look you've gone for, obviously you've gone for a sort of part CGI, but also this kind of puppet sort of model, the sets and so forth. Can you just tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that? Because you've actually presumably made it more challenging and more difficult than you might have done if you'd gone for pure CGI.
Yes, I think we probably did make it more challenging. Obviously the original series was puppets, and it still looks amazing, but making a show today for kids today, we did research, and that kind of look doesn't deliver the action and the movement and the pace and that children look for today. So it was really down to the development done in New Zealand by the guys at Pakiko to see what kind of look could be achieved with CG, but obviously still keeping those fantastic, and you saw them today, those fantastic model sets. I mean, they call them miniature sets. They're huge, and marrying that together is something that I just don't think is done, as Giles said in the introduction, for a long-form series. That really is a big challenge to get that done.
And even with the CG models, nothing is completely electronic in this show. So even though the craft are built, the skeletons are built electronically, the team at Weta and Pakiko would go into the workshop and take these big glass panels, and then they're going to paint the different colours of the craft on the panels, and then throw loads of dirt at them to get that lovely kind of weathered, kind of organic look to the craft. They'd then photograph those panels and then wrap those photographs around the digital models. So it really is not only is it the kind of live action miniatures, but the CG assets as well have some kind of real organic form to them too.
So Rob, from your point of view, I know obviously, as I said, you're based in LA. And I don't know, to be honest, what the impact of the show, the original show, was in America. I don't know whether it's the same as here or not. So I was going to ask you about that. But the other thing, then, to move on from there, is when you've kind of been commissioning these stories and and writing the stories, is there a kind of Bible of kind of things that the characters would or wouldn't do, or things or situations that you can and can't have, or how does that work in terms of the guidelines for the writers?
Well, the first question first, you'd actually be surprised. I remember Thunderbirds when I was a kid. They did play it, often late at night. And when I first got involved and was able to share with people that I knew, they were thrilled and surprised. A lot of people would be, oh, that's that puppet show, isn't it? But once, I think it does, in certain audiences, it definitely has had an impact. Certainly not anywhere near the impact it's had here. There is a certain formula to the stories that we tell, and when I say formula, it's actually not a bad thing, because I kind of look at it more as a roadmap to getting a good story, because unlike the original series from 1965, we only have 22 minutes to tell our stories, and the originals were twice that length. So we have to be very judicious in the elements that we put into a story, and we want to do that without sacrificing the details, because just like the original show, this series is all about details. I mean, you look. For those of you that were observant, you still saw the lemon squeezer on the wall in the hangar. I mean, those are the little things that not only from a visual perspective, from a storytelling perspective too. You know, that the ability to kind of be true to the character and be able to focus on relationships. I mean, this is, as Giles said, this is a show about a family, and they live in a pretty incredible place and do very amazing things. But still, at the heart of it, these are 5 brothers and an adopted sister and a grandma that loves them and you know this whole extended family that's kind of created around that. So we have to start there.
And those universal themes are the same now as they were 50 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in many ways we're able to explore those now better now than maybe they were in the past. And that's really kind of exciting, because the thing is that, you know, the action and the adventure part, that's kind of easy. You know, something goes wrong, our guys go to take care of the problem. You know, there's an unforeseen consequence. They have to use their smarts and their brains and their ingenuity to find a solution. And at the very end of the day, they're able to save the world. And then there's a big explosion. And then see you next week for another version of that. But there is sort of something that's nice and sort of comforting about the ability to kind of know that what you're going to expect in terms of, you know, I know that there's going to be exciting action and cool kind of, you know, thrilling, you know, edge of our seat kind of suspense, but also we get the fun, you know, character moments as well, which really kind of bring it to life.
And even though the show was made all those years ago, it's often been on our screens since. I just wonder now, just moving on to sort of Kayvan and Thomas, if you could just tell us a little bit about your kind of relationship with the show in terms of, did you watch it when you were growing up? Is it something you remember, or have you come into it fresh?
I remember it as a kid, watching it, loving it, and I guess it hadn't been on for a few years. It was repeated. So I watched that, and then I watched Stingray, and we had a show called Terrorhawks as well, which was kind of like a poor cousin of Thunderbirds. But I always remember it kind of being part of my childhood. And then when I heard that they were remaking it, I was straight on the phone, straight on the email, kind of
So you actually lobbied?
Bleary-eyed. I was like, doing Thunderbirds, please, I want to be in it, I want to be in it. And my agent was like, calm down, they're not making it for like a year at least. So, you know, I was like, are they making it yet? Are they making it yet? Right. Get me in the room. I want to do some voices.
Well, Thomas, I believe that you also have a kind of a similar relationship with the show in terms of you were a big fan when you were younger, is that right?
Yeah, I was a big fan. Again, I saw the reruns in the 90s. My father was a big fan, and so he insisted on recording every episode, and we would sit down and watch it together, and it was kind of like a father and son thing. And I just remember completely falling in love with the characters, with the stories, with the ships, with the costumes, with everything. And I had all the toys, I had the full costume. It was the first thing I actually got into and got like obsessed about. And to hear that they were same thing when I found out they were doing, you know, a reboot, a remake of it. I just couldn't wait to be a part of it, and to play a Thunderbird for me was a childhood dream that I'm still very excited about.
David, obviously, as we touched on at the very, very start, you were part of the show when it first came out.
That's right, yes.
And you played a number of voices, including Brains.
Yes.
I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about your reaction. I don't know if it was Giles or who it was who contacted you. When they invited you to come back and be part of this journey, second time around, what your reaction was?
Well, Giles and Estelle came up to see me in Hampstead. I think they were checking me out to see if I was in one piece, but I've taken care of myself, and I was absolutely thrilled when I was asked to repeat the voice and the character of Parker. Although I'm in terms of age quite old now, my voice hasn't changed too much over the years, and the character's in my vocal DNA, as it were. So, and it's great to work with all these young, talented people.
In terms of that voice, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about the time when you stumbled across your inspiration in that respect.
Yes. Well, I had a long relationship with voices. I'd done 4 series before Thunderbirds, and when he was, I knew I was going to play the character. Jerry, to whom I owe so much, took me out to lunch in a pub in Cookham, and he said, "I would like you to hear the voice of this wine waiter who used to, I think, work in the royal household and was retired." And he called him over and he said, "Would you like to see the wine list, sir?" So, and Parker was born, and I kind of I jazzed him up, and he's kind of ageless now. And thank you, old mate.
I wonder if just in terms of the three of you who are the actors, if you could just tell us a little bit about the kind of about the voice acting, which obviously you're having to convey everything through the way you're talking. Nobody's seeing you as they would normally do. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about how it's recorded, in the sense that I know with a lot of animated films, somebody comes in and they record their role and that's then put in. But actually, I think you were working in a group whenever that was possible, which obviously is quite a different dynamic.
I think it was always the case that they wanted to get, well, at least the Tracy brothers anyway, all together, so that we can kind of bounce off one another and just feed off one another. If you go in, it's much easier to, and probably much cheaper to bring in people and just have cue lines, and you just say your bit and then you go out and you never actually meet anyone, which is the way that I've done it before. But it makes such a difference to have everyone in the studio all together, all getting excited about it. I mean, most of us are all fans of the show, and still kind of pinch ourselves to think that we're going into these recording booths and getting to do our take on these characters. And I think having one another there really does help an awful lot with the performances.
Are you watching anything playing as you're doing the voices? Have you got visuals, or is it completely from scratch?
No, we kind of just listen to our voice director, who, I'm not sure he's here, but Dave Peacock, I think, is someone that we owe a great deal to, because he's just the greatest voice director you'd ever wish to work for. You know, I think, you know, a lot of, because we lay down the vocals and then that goes off to New Zealand and they do all the modelly bits, but you know what I mean? They kind of, all the characterizations based on what Dave gets out of us in the sound booth, you know. Is he even here?
Yeah,
No, he's not here.
I don't think there's anybody here who...
He's
hasn't
very
worked on the
busy.
show.
He's in demand, seriously in demand. So
Is there anybody here who hasn't worked on the show? So, Kevin, in terms of finding the right voice, at what point did that come to you?
Well, I mean, my initial kind of audition, I auditioned for pretty much all of the characters, and failed on getting nearly all of those. But I was open to that. Like Giles and Estelle, they weren't like, we want Brains to sound like this. You know, I came in, I was like, "Hi, my name is Brains." You know, I was like, that's not going to work. So we kind of we brought it back down to, you know, more of a kind of, you know, like this. I said, you know, what if he's, you know, this kind of, my name is Brains, and you know, they were like, that's terrible. And then 2 weeks later, they were like, come back, they want to play some more with you. So I was like, okay, what if I do it like this? And they were like, great, that sounds great, let's do that.
Because time is not on our side, and I want to get to questions to the audience as well, I have been handed a magic ITV iPad, where people who have been registering we've been sending to at Thunderbirds HQ, or hashtag Thunderbirds, have been given the opportunity to ask some questions. So I've got a few here, which I'm just going to throw out. So the first one from at Thunderbirds HQ is for Giles and Estelle, by name. You've been asked, how difficult is it keeping everything under wraps? I mean, what's interesting is that in the 60s, obviously, there wasn't social media or internet and everything, whereas now, spoilers are kind of everywhere, potentially. So how do you keep that all secret?
Well, I think we took a bit of inspiration from part of the development of the show, really, because in the original series, the boy's identity was secret, and you know, people didn't see the craft. But we had to, as part of the early development, realise that wasn't really going to be possible. You know, for an audience set today, with everyone having access to cameras, and you know, obviously the internet, which didn't exist in the original series. So you know, it's been an interesting subject within the show, as well as on the marketing and things. I think you particularly kept a hold on a lot of things because we had quite a long period of development, so we didn't want too much to come out 18 months ago when we first started.
I've driven most of ITV mad with my paranoia about the material leaking, and I'm actually really happy that we got where we did.
So everybody was signing. I mean, did you all have to sign lots of things saying you can give away plot?
Giles would like show us like little kind of 10-second clips and just snap his laptop shut. Back in that booth.
But as I say, it's not without the support of an incredible team as well, and certainly the marketing team at ITV have to be thanked hugely for all their wonderful efforts, including today. It's a real tribute to them too.
Okay, the next question from the Magic ITV iPad is, for all the voice characters, oh God, it's got dark, which character would you portray if you had the choice?
All of them. All of them, but they didn't give me the jobs.
And you could too, I've heard him.
Not David's. That's David's. That's for David.
Have you ever tried to do a Parko?
Maybe.
All right.
I'm keeping that one on ice.
Thomas, anything from you? Any other, are you happy with your character?
I'm pretty happy where I am, yeah. I'm chuffed to be playing John.
You're a hero.
Yeah.
And the guys over there,
Yeah.
the real Tracy brothers.
Tracy brothers are here. And David, are you happy with Parko? Anyone you'd like to have a go at? Lady
I
Penelope,
should be happy with Parker to the end of time. Of course, we have a new Lady Penelope, the lovely Rosamund Pike, and going back in the original show, we just went down on a Sunday and did 3 scripts as a play, which is the best way to do it, because you get the best out of the actors and the emotion you can act together. And most of my scenes are with Rosamund, so we have a nice relationship. She's lovely to work with, and it's only on sometimes we do retakes later on of odd lines that you see the pictures, so you act a picture as opposed to just round a mic.
And Rob, you've obviously been working on the storylines with a whole set of different writers. We've got the great David Baddiel with us today.
Indeed.
Who I believe has written a very special episode. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yes, well, we knew that we wanted to do something kind of special, have an episode that really sort of stood out, and we were very fortunate to get Sylvia Anderson herself to come and reprise a role on the series as a new character, Lady Sylvia, who plays Crazy Aunt Sylvia, is Crazy Aunt Sylvia, Great Aunt Sylvia, who is Penelope's. She's a little crazy, but it's fun. Yeah, so Penelope's great aunt comes for a visit, played by Sylvia, which is fantastic.
Okay, and then for Giles and Estelle, the final one here is, will we be seeing the characters enjoying hobbies outside of rescues, or are the stories mainly mission-based?
Hobbies.
I'm riding my bicycle.
Mine's
Coloring in.
Mine's safe breaking.
That's right.
So we have got Victoria and Stephen on either aisle here with hand mics. If you put your hand up if you want to ask a question, they are going to choose you. They're going to come and find you, and they'll put the microphone in front of you and then ask away.
Hello. What does FAB mean?
David?
Well, I don't really know, quite honestly. It's fab. It's just become an iconic word. It describes a lot.
We haven't got a lot of time, so we're going to go straight to the next one.
Hi, a question for Rob, actually. You made it clear, it's clear that you've drawn on the original and how you have. I was just interested in terms of kind of the tone and style and fixing the show. Were there any other influences that you drew on, in terms of other shows or genres or that influenced the development of the writing?
Not really. Just I had so much to work with already. I didn't really feel it was necessary to sort of pull from anything else. I mean, we did mention, a lot of stories are universal. So it's just finding ways to kind of tell great, compelling stories within, the world that we have here. So.
Okay. Who's next? Okay.
Thank you very much for my book, but did you reuse any of the models from the original, or were they all brand new?
Good question.
It's
Is Stuart in the audience? Where are you, Stuart?
Right there, front and center.
Stuart's with us from New Zealand, and I did warn him I might put him on the spot. Stuart's our New Zealand producer who has seen through all of the model filming, the pre-viz and post-viz with the storyboarders, and has really been kind of our linchpin in Wellington. So I'm going to ask him to answer that.
Hi there. Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of the original models from the series were actually destroyed when the series finished. Those that were salvaged, interestingly enough, are collected by Peter Jackson, who sort of is involved in Weather Workshop and stuff. I believe at the beginning of the show, before I actually came on board, there was reference taken of a lot of those original models. So one would like to think that some of the DNA is in there. But a lot of them were kind of built from scratch and designed, and we tried to make them look very similar to the originals, but also bring something a little bit different to them. Obviously, there are things that we're able to do with them as computer-generated models that in the original series they couldn't really do. Some of the stuff, in particular with Thunderbirds 3, the way that it works is kind of cool. And some of the interaction with the models of miniatures are, again, specially designed. But yeah, we very much like to think at least the spirit of those models is there in it, and I hope everyone would agree. Thanks.
Okay, who's next?
Question for all of you. Which is your favourite episode from the original series?
The ultimate question.
Well, I think Parker was involved. My favourite episode was Parker was involved with a safe breaking episode, and he had a mate called Light-Fingered Fred, which I also played, so I was talking to myself a lot of the time. And that was my favourite episode, but I love the whole series. I just picked that one out because it was kind of special.
Anybody else want to throw in?
I like the one, I don't know the name of it, but the one with the weird robots and the three guys with the things on their wrists.
Oh yeah, that's 18.
Anybody else want to throw in an episode?
For me, it would have to be Trapped in the Sky.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was a popular choice. Okay, where are we going next? Who's got them?
This is also for everyone. Of the original series, what were your favourite machines? Not just the Thunderbirds themselves, but the guest models, Fireflash, the Sidewinder, the Crab Logger. Which was your favourite?
What was your favourite machine?
I like that. You turn it on me, yeah? Pleasure. It's got to be Fireflash. It was a beautifully designed model, and that has got to be potentially the greatest pilot episode of any show I've ever seen.
Well, we've got, there is actually an episode called Fireflash coming up as well. So.
The internet loves you.
Does anybody else want to throw in a gadget before we go to next?
I think you've got to mention the mole, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you explain the reasoning between the decision to leave Jeff Tracy out of the series, for at least for the first couple of series?
I spy controversy here.
Well, it is, and understandably so. And we've sort of danced around the issue. And I did an AMA on Reddit a couple nights ago, and was very honest in that no, he will not be seen in the first two seasons. But we haven't really ever given a real reason why. And I think I can say this, and I hope I don't get in trouble. But Jeff Tracy is not a character that can be sidelined or minimized in any way, shape, or form. He is a huge presence in the world of Thunderbirds and on the screen. The show we're making right now couldn't be about Jeff Tracy. It has to be about the boys and KO. And our feeling was, what would be a way to make Jeff Tracy mean something to the show and be just as important, but still be in a place where the rest of the boys can take a step forward and shine. And so our decision to sort of take him out of the picture was really motivated by that. And it became a situation, story-wise, where it became less about what Dad tells us to do and more about what would Dad do. And so the sort of the currency that we get from having the absence of their father there is hugely important, I think, as we move forward with the series. So that's kind of the answer.
We are literally down to the last. Oh, there we go. Okay, the last. Sorry, I just interrupted your applause. And
No, but please, you know it.
We've only got time for a couple of quick questions. So, yep, over there.
Hi, my friends and I have always been concerned about John Tracy's state of mind, just being trapped up in space on his own. We're just wondering if he ever gets any downtime. Will we ever see him down on Earth, playing with the other toys, Thunderbirds, I mean?
He pops down from time to time, but I mean that's where he's comfortable. He just likes being up there. He's a bit of a loner, really, but he just enjoys being on his own and having the control and having that kind of bird's eye view of the whole world and the peaceful tranquility of it. But at the same time, with all these emergency calls coming through and just a bit of a freak in terms of just like loving having loads of stuff to do and telling all the guys what's best to do, what their ETA is, what their timings are. I think he just enjoys that. I don't think he enjoys the kind of hubble bubble of everyday life and having to socialise with human beings other than through a radio. But I quite like that.
Okay. Any more?
I'll say one of the unintended side effects of kind of sidelining Jeff is that John now has a far more important role than he ever did before, which is great. So we really get to utilize him in a role that typically Jeff would have. So that's been really great.
Okay, yep, over there.
Having been a first-generation boy of 7 in 1965, you need to know that I originally fell in love with Marina, being a perfect woman that didn't speak, and followed rapidly onto that of Tintin. So please, what have you done with Tintin? I assumed 50 years later she was married with children and everything else with Alan. So what's gone on with Tintin?
Well, you saw her. There she is.
That's not Tintin, that's KO.
Well, we changed her name, but that is her.
Okay, thank you.
We are now going for the absolute final question. So, yeah.
You mentioned bringing fire flashback in one of the new episodes. Will you be sort of remaking any of the previous episodes at all?
Yeah, we are remaking Trapped in the Sky, as we mentioned, and I was always very kind of drawn to the Sun Probe episode, which is the first one I saw and really stuck with me. So we have another episode that while it's not a remake of that one, draws very heavily on elements from that story as well.
Well, sadly our time is up, but you're about to have 26 episodes worth of stuff to watch and enjoy, and we'll answer some of those questions, I guess, as I'm sure there's going to be lots of secrets unfolding as the series develops. I guess we should say that anything you've seen in today's episode, particularly in terms of kind of spoiler, kind of secret type stuff, we should try and ask people to kind of keep under wraps at least until Saturday. But apart from that, just to say a massive thank you to ITV and CITV and our amazing panel who come out today. Thank you so much.